So in this video, we'll talk about architecture of API gateway. So this is the API manager front end. As you can see, a typical gateway consists of publisher and store. Apart from this, it has a key management, traffic management, and analytics component. Creating an API starts with publisher, where it will be designed and it will be published to the store for the consumer to explore the service. Once consumer has subscribed the service, the client can invoke the API using the API key generated by the key management component, right? Then the gateway receives the call and verifies the token with the key management and allows the API to hit the service. The traffic management component helps in applying rate limiting features. So this is the diagram of API publisher. An API publisher is a web application with a structured UI. It is designed for API publishers like developers and managers. This involves API development and API management. The life cycle activities of a common API developer manager are develop, publish, manage, and monitor. Let's discuss about develop and publish. So develop includes creating an API or making changes to an existing one, then deploying the API to server. And publish involves registering the API, associate corresponding service level agreement and security policy. It also has rate limiting or throttling. Now let's talk about manage and monitor. In manage, this includes managing the life cycle, versions, access policies, keys, etc. And monitor, we have API behavior, consumer usage, and consumer requirements. So this is the diagram of API store. API store is considered as a web application where the publisher will host the API and the consumers can register and subscribe to the API in API store. Before your application can access an API, it should be registered in the store. An application can subscribe to any number of APIs. Life cycle activities of an API consumer consist of find, explore, subscribe, and evaluate. In find means searching the store for the required API. Explore means trying out the API online. Subscribe means subscribing to the application. Evaluate, providing rating and comments. Key management. Key management governs access and token related operations. The gateway connects with the key management to validate the API subscription, OAuth tokens, and API invoking. The communication between the gateway and the key management happens through a web service or a thrift call. Thrift is a communication protocol which is faster than HTTP and SOAP. Now let's talk about caching. While subscribing to an application, a token will be created by key management. Then while invoking API gateway, will validate the token using key management. You can avoid gateway making calls to key management frequently by using caching. The information such as token, API name, and versions are cached and stored in either the API gateway or the key manager server. This improves the latency of the request to your API. Now let's talk about traffic management. Traffic management helps in regulating the API traffic. It secures the organization from attacks like DOS, denial of service. It enforces rate limiting policies, makes the application and APIs available to the consumers at different service levels. Gateway manages traffic with the help of throttling and role specific rate limiting policies, which we'll be discussing later. Analytics. Analytics helps in monitoring the API and application. This includes functionalities like statistical graphs, alerting mechanism, or predetermined events, log analyzer, alerts on unusual activities. So till now we have have a brief overview of API gateway and its components. In the next videos, we'll discuss in detail about the key features of API gateways.